Da dum da dum dum do da dum da dum dum do 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 do. Bam, bam, bam. It's the hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Sometimes you go over the top rope, and then you bang your head on the ring apron. Oh, that's when you feel like a big dope, 'cause they're the worst bumps you can be taking, Mark and Chris. It's the hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. A double claps. The hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Ba-da-ba-da. Whoa, what am I doing here? What's happening right now? The world is turned upside down. It is pandemonium. You can cut the electricity with a knife. They are hanging from the rafters. It is jam-packed here at the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany in January something or other, 1992. That's close enough. It's the 1992 Royal Rumble. It's a bonus episode, gentlemen. It is a bonus episode. I just addressed the both of you for now. It is a bonus episode of the 1992 Royal Rumble. We did the bonus WrestleMania 8 for the 50th edition, and I am a man of my word. I'm a lot of things. I am a lot of things. But I'm a man of my word. I said I was going to do the 1992 Royal Rumble. And I did. And I watched this show. Oh, what fun. What memorable moments. What stars that were made. What legacies that were cemented. What some forgettable stuff that was actually still really good. I did unscripted promos left and right. Everybody saying and doing just about whatever, but getting the job done at the same time. And that's the real secret. Anyone can make a mess. But controlled chaos. Making a mess and cleaning it up at the same time. That's the real skill. They have a laughable. I'm going to get right into the show here. I'm not going to waste any time. I'll give you my thoughts on it at the end. But they have a laughable option on the network version of this to skip intro. No. Do not ever skip the intro on any of these old shows. Do not ever skip the intro. Vince McMahon is in full snarl, and he's announcing every single competitor in the most random order, as if they're gonna win it. You'll hear like Sergeant Slaughter, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, Skinner, Nikolai Volkov, the Repo Man, the Undertaker, Jake the Snake Roberts, Hercules. Like he believes everyone was gonna win. Hulk Hogan, Greg the Hammer Valentine, and then I'm sure he announced Hogan last, but you know what I mean. Oh, don't miss those. They're so much fun. We go right to Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan. This is another one of those, maybe the most infamous Gorilla Bobby commentary outings, just because of Heenan's commentary during the Rumble match itself, which of course we'll get into. Some of this stuff is so great, I really don't have to remind you. It's like, why am I doing a thing where I'm just reminding you something was awesome? That's kind of worthless. I want to really dig into it and go over how it really was to watch the whole show. As a fan, I'd be 11 years old, and 11 years old and 11 months old. I'd be almost 12. I remember I would watch this on the this show specifically on the scrambled pay-per-view TV. I would just watch the squiggly lines. You could do that if you put it on the pay-per-view channel and then turned your cable box a certain way, whatever. I forget how to do it now. But I watched a lot of pay-per-views like that. So just trying to figure out what was going on. And that was especially hard in the mid 90s when Vince started announcing more pay-per-views, and Vince McMahon was notorious for his 1, 2, 3, he got him, we have a new. No, we don't. That doesn't work with scrambled TV if you're watching, but I guess he knew. He's been messing with me for a long, long time. That Vince McMahon. Gorilla and Bobby hype all the matches. You know, Bobby sides with the bad guys. Gorilla. There's plenty of will you stops in this thing. And I think that would be Gorilla's advice if I were to ask him today, should I continue doing the podcast? Will you stop? I'll have you removed. So let's just kick it off. Match number 1, the Orient Express with Pat Tanaka. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I wrote Pat. No, that's not why. during the Orient Express's introduction, as they walk with Mr. Fuji, and this is not Sato. This is Tanaka and I guess Kato they called him, which was Paul Diamond, and I think that's the same duo that wrestled the Rockers in the opening of the '91 Royal Rumble. In this one, same deal, and I didn't even know the Orient Express was still around at this time. I think they were just they're there to be beat. But during the introduction, if you look through at the curtain, I'm pretty sure it's Pat Patterson because he wasn't at Mania 8 because I think that's when he left. But he's doing the classic, the early 1992 WWF official suit and bright white sneakers ensemble that you saw a lot of on Mania 8. You see it here too. It's only a few months before. And I think it's Pat just walks right across the curtain right as soon as the Orient Express enters, which you would just obviously never do. Now there's a ramp and there's pyro and there's this and that. But back in the day, you can just arenas look different. You know, you can't even tell where they are anymore. Are they in Knoxville? Are they in Brooklyn? You can't tell anymore. So I like that kind of stuff. Like the Garden House shows had a look. You could just know instantly. Anyway. The Orient Express wrestles the New Foundation, which is a short-lived tag team of the Rocket Owen Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who were wearing the baggy checkered pants, which would later be adopted by Owen and Coco in High Energy later on in the year. The New Foundation did not last long, but the Anvil and Owen had a good back and forth with the Orient Express. It went a little long. I think this thing was definitely over 15, so it was a good spot the announcers missed. Fuji puts his wooden cane, he hangs it in a turnbuckle area, and then Owen gets thrown collarbone first through the cane and breaks it, and then the heels naturally work on that shoulder. So that made sense. I think they were just they bickered a lot, and I'm sure somebody back there was like, "This is entertaining and all, but goddamn, guys, you're missing. can you focus a little bit?" But good water. The New Foundation wins, of course, because they're going to be pushed to the moon soon. We will never see this team again. Anvil grabs Owen Hart. He propels him off the turnbuckle in a slingshot top rope splash, and Owen pins one of them. I forget. Match gets 5 stars. Gonna give this match 5 stars. Okay, we take it to Lord Alfred Hayes. He was British. That's it. That's pretty much all I need to know about him. So he recaps this interesting moment of the Mountie defeating Bret Hart in Canada somewhere, I think. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was like Long Island or something. But geez, I was way off. The Mountie defeats Bret on somehow. Oh, it was Springfield, Massachusetts. There you go. Hey, I was in the middle. How about that? It was right in the middle there. I think the deal was Bret Hart is not on this show. The deal was Bret Hart's contract was expiring and he still had the Intercontinental title on him. So they figured they'll take the title off him last minute in case he goes to WCW, which they thought he would, and he swore he wouldn't, and he didn't yet. That was 5-6 years away. So that was like a security thing. So they just had, I guess, to make everyone happy. Roddy Piper is on this show, and Roddy Piper is challenging for 2 championships here, the Intercontinental and the World Heavyweight Championship, which no one's ever done in the history of the WWF at this time. I'm sure someone else has since, now everyone's done everything, but it doesn't even matter. And Sean Mooney is talking to the heels, the Mountie and Jimmy Hart. I just said heels, like I said, because I said I wouldn't. And they are very confident, Jimmy Hart and the Mountie. And then Roddy Piper talks to Gene Okerlund, and Piper, he implies that the Mountie is a homosexual, which makes him weaker and bad. That if you are homosexual, he cuts a very homophobic promo, and then he implies that the Mountie ejaculates in his sleep. I'm not kidding, by the way, because he says, Mountie, I know you've been having a lot of dreams, and I think they're all wet. And they're like, what? He just said that. And Okerlund makes a face, and then they just go to the match. After Piper accuses him of being homosexual, which again makes you bad and weak in Roddy Piper's eyes at this time. It was the 90s. And Then he says he ejaculates in his pants in his sleep, and they have an Intercontinental title match. Piper wins in about like 9 minutes. The match gets 5 stars. Piper just kind of beats him up, and Mountie takes those horrible Jacques Rougeau bumps that Jacques Rougeau can only take. And sleeper hold, he's out to ring the bell. Everybody's happy. Lord Alfred Hayes is back with a Coliseum exclusive. A Coliseum video exclusive. Lord Alfred is. They would do these. So what happened is, this show, you can maybe rent it on VHS 4 months later at your local video store. Or maybe 6 months later, WWF's video production team, Coliseum Home Video, would release the thing. No more watching it the same night. No more replaying one anytime you want. No more DVR. If you miss this show, you can catch usually the Tuesday after the Sunday. The Tuesday you can buy for the same price. You can buy the encore and watch it on pay-per-view 2 days later after you probably already know what happened because prime time was on Mondays. Or, but you had to see it though. Even though they spoiled it already, you still had to see it because you could never see it again for like 6 months. You can wait till that video comes out and you can buy that video. Or really, you're just renting that video. I don't even know how you bought it. I think you would order the video probably through the magazine. I think you would write in and write a business letter as they taught you in the second grade, and then send a check and you get a video in the mail. Who the hell knows? Anyway, Lord Alfred Hayes is talking Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan, he doesn't care about this promo because he's using his Terry Bollea voice. It's my calm voice, but it's my super calm Hulkster voice. I'm just talking like a regular guy. I called it his Terry Bollea voice and not his real voice because Hogan's always working. So I'm just going to call it he's using his Terry Bollea voice. He's working a Terry Bollea gimmick on us. Gene Okerlund is back talking to the Bushwhackers and Jameson. If you're not familiar with Jameson, I have no idea how to explain it. There was this really horrible, nerdy, and slob character, because that's how Vince McMahon views all wrestling fans. And they would have him on primetime wrestling, and his glasses are taped together and all that crap, and Heenan would pick on him, and usually a baby face would stick up for him, like the Bushwhackers or Hacksaw or something like that. So anyway, Bushwhackers are they're having Jameson in their corner to counteract the genius Lanny Poffo, who is managing the Beverly Brothers, who are an up and coming tag team, and Bushwhacker Luke calls them the Beverly Sisters because to be female is bad and weak. It's the 90s. I just totally Bill Burred the shit out of that part of the podcast. It's horrific, Okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. So anyway, it was a different time, folks. The Jameson character would get killed off, literally. They would have the Berserker tie Jameson to like a piece of wood or a stake or something and throw him off, quote unquote, the roof of whatever building they were filming this thing in. One of the studios in Connecticut, I'm sure. So they would actually just kill him like shortly after this, and that would be the end of it. They just murdered a guy on TV and they went about their business. Old wrestling was fun. Anyway, the Beverly Brothers, because they're a hot up and coming bad guy tag team, it takes them 20 minutes to beat the fucking Bushwhackers. Match gets 5 stars. The Bushwhackers come to the ring licking so many kids. They licked all the kids. They just put their tongue on people's offspring. And why? Because it was weird at the time. That's the thing. This isn't one of those, well, it was a different. No, it was actually still a weird time to be licking kids. And parents handing over their kids to be licked by these strange men. And everyone cheered. But I'll say this about the Whackers. I do agree with them being in the Hall of Fame. They entered, and in early '92, the height of their popularity is actually kind of over. But half the people are still, or the height of them being used. I can't say the popularity because then I'd be about to disprove that. More than half the people are doing the Bushwhacker arm thing. Like they're still having fun because that's what they know, the Bushwhackers. And then they had to wrestle for 20 minutes. This should have been a 6-minute match. The Bushwhackers should just have a little fun, poke them in the eye, let Beverly's sell a little bit of the rough offense. Beverly's just take over, do some flashy moves. Little comeback by the Whackers. Jameson does something. Genius bumps Jameson somehow. That's a distraction for the Whackers. Whackers turn around. Beverly's hit a move. 1, 2, 3. Go the fuck home. That should be the match. 6, 7 minutes. 8 minutes curtain to curtain. Get the fuck out of there. But what do I know? 5 stars. Okerlund is talking. This was a Bushwhackers and Beverly's was so long. Okerlund was talking to the Legion of Doom. Not the Legion of Gimmicks. They're on NXT right now. But the Legion of Doom are going to wrestle the Natural Disasters. I don't think the Disasters cut a promo here. So the Disasters are going to challenge them for the Tag Team Championships. Okerlund just talks to Hawk, an Animal. And this was not like their WrestleMania 8 promo. Animal says some tough guy stuff. Hawk says, "What a rush." Hawk had a great line. Hawk would have these great lines. He would say, he said, "Natural Disasters. You guys, my toilet just turned on by itself. It does that." It would say, "Natural Disasters. You guys like to throw your weight around. Well, that's good. Because we like to throw your weight around too." Like, that's a great line. And he says, "What a rush. Everyone's happy." Oh, it's fucking brilliant. This is the third tag team match on this show. And in a show at a Royal Rumble, and only one guy doing double duty, that would be Piper. I counted 43 wrestlers on this show. And of the 4, usually it was a standard 4 matches for the first several years. 4 matches before the Rumble. 3 of them are tag matches. How about that? There's only one singles match in the whole show when Piper beats the Mountie. Remember, it got 5 stars. Oh, at the end of that, Piper took the cattle prod and hit Mountie with it, and he played a buzzer sound over the PA. It was really silly. Anyway, the LD Disasters. If you like bear hugs, check out this match because they show you how the bear hugs are done. $3. Why did I write down the phrase $3 on? I don't remember. I really don't. I hope that wasn't important. But anyway, there's a lot of bear hugs. You can start to see. I guess legend has it the Disasters and LOD did not necessarily enjoy wrestling one another. LOD, of course, likes a tag team more like the Beverly Brothers. They can just bump around, and the fancier and prissier the heels, the better for the LOD. And Disasters would like, of course, a team they can move around too. But Disasters didn't have any problem moving LOD around, especially Hawk. They were fine. Typhoon caught Hawk off a second buckle into a bear hug, and Earthquake's picking up whoever he wants, however he wants. Nobody was taking anybody's big moves here. Obviously, no Doomsday device. That would be preposterous, but they would try it today. I bet you Keith Lee could take it. But the thing is, someone's got to get Keith Lee up. I bet you Jovic can do it. Oh, whatever. Don't do it just to do it. This match ends in a countout. The LOD gets counted out. There's a brawl. I think Hawk takes a chair to both the Disasters after the bell rings. The Disasters hold up the championships, the championship belts, the belts like they want them. But they did not. You can only change hands on a countout. And Gorilla Monsoon, of course, makes us aware of this. And I never understood, even as a kid, how I know they're heel wrestlers, bad guy wrestlers and all, but how did they not know that anyway after being wrestlers for years if the fans knew it? But of course, Bobby Heenan, being a bad guy announcer, says, "Well, that's close enough, just give it to him." Anyway, Sean Mooney talks to the Natural Disasters, and the Disasters are very upset because after years in the wrestling business, they still don't understand his rules, so they feel they should be the champions, which takes us to Gorilla and Bobby Heenan, and they take it back to Okerlund. These are the times when there were so many announcers just passing everything to everywhere all the time. Okerlund's talking to Piper again. Okerlund and Piper again. Roddy Piper references George Bush, the president at the time, falling in Japan. And I think he threw up in Japan too or something. Didn't he throw up on a table or something? I don't know what the hell. But at the end, it's really quick. And if you blink, you miss it. And he talks about how he won one title. He has a chance to win another tonight. And he says, this one's dedicated to Colt, who is his son, who is, I want to say, 8 or 9 years younger than me. So, Colt would have been I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 years old, something like that, at the time. So just a little FYI there. How about that? If you didn't, and they would just do that stuff, and if you, just the same way Jesse Ventura would say, "I want to say hi to," I forget his kids' names. I'm sorry, and his wife. But he would never say those are my kids and wife. He would just say hi. Yeah, it's WrestleMania. I'm gonna say hi to blah blah blah. And Gorilla would say, "Oh yeah, no, yeah, you always do that. What's wrong with you, Jesse?" That's a little fun. They were just having a little fun. Hey, remember when they looked like they were enjoying themselves and not worried about getting fired if they accidentally said belt instead of title once? Until Becky says she's Becky Two Belts and they throw that away? Okay. Off topic. Sean Mooney is back again. Oh, we are throwing it left and right. Sean Mooney. He's about to talk to Shawn Michaels, who has only been a singles wrestler and a bad guy for a week. That is crazy. So crazy. We didn't even know what he looked like as a bad guy, what his gear looked like, if he had music. Did he have music? He didn't, because no one in this thing comes out to music except for the first two and the winner after they win. So, yeah, how crazy is that? He's talking to Shawn, but before he does, he's saying the locker room is tense. This is the first Royal Rumble, and remember, this is the first Rumble that meant anything. 93 and on was challenging for the champion at WrestleMania. 92 was the first one where the damn thing is vacated. And hold on, my neighbor's playing this fucking music. There was, well, hang on. Don't go anywhere. Stay there. Just don't. Stay. You fucking idiot. There's bullshit music. So this is the first year that the Rumble meant anything. So it was tense. And 91 was a dud. 90 was about setting up Hogan Warrior, so it meant nothing coming up, but they made it mean something. But this one was like important. So when someone got eliminated, it was like, oh, that guy's not going to be champion. That guy's not going to be champion. Oh man, sorry Haku, you're not going to be champion. Ah, Jerry Sags isn't going to win. So Mooney's just standing there. It's so tense, and the Barbarian just walks behind him and just nudges him in the because they're not going to take time to talk to the Barbarian right now. We're going to talk to Hogan, Flair, Taker, etc., etc., etc. And then we go to Lord Alfred Hayes. We're not done throwing it around. We're throwing all the way around, like Hawk would say here. Lord Alfred Hayes asks Ric Flair what number he drew, but this is a Coliseum exclusive interview. It didn't air on a pay-per-view. So this is where I'm okay with it, giving away a number, because this was not given away live for the people who were watching at the time. And Ric Flair says, well, Lord Alfred, I drew number 3. And that's when Flair's using his gentleman voice like he would do from the early Starcades, etc., etc. When he's about to wrestle Hardy Race, he would use his gentleman voice for some reason. Uh, so he tells Lord Alfred he drew number 3 and he's ready. He's going to win the damn thing anyway. And then Gene Okerlund says more things. But he throws it. After Alfred throws it to Okerlund, throws the whole show to all of these wrestlers I'm about to list in this order. Just doing like 15-second, 20-second, here's why I'm winning the damn thing. And these are the best parts of old Rumbles. Watch all of these. Randy Savage, Sid Justice, The Repo Man, The British Bullfrog, Jake the Snake Roberts, Mr. Perfect with Ric Flair again. More Ric Flair, can't complain there. Ric Flair talking is always a good thing. Paul Bearer, and as Vince would announce him in the intro snarl, The Undertaker. That's when you knew Taker was going to be a star no matter what, when you hear Vince give him that intro. And finally, Hulk Hogan. And Jack Tunney, the president of the United States, the president of WWF, he talks to Okerlund, I want to say. Doesn't really say much of anything. Oh, that's right, Jack Tunney talks to Howard Finkel. Howard Finkel, the Fink, he gives the way too long explanation. They would make a gag out of that a couple of years later, of Jerry Lawler getting frustrated during Howard's long explanation of the Rumble rules. And it would become a gag, a bigger gag every year there on it after. But at this time, they were still serious about it. But Howard introduces Tunney, and Tunney gives a long explanation. And I think he stumbled on his words a few times. He was so uncomfortable. It was hilarious. You had to love it. Bobby Heenan says he should be president of WWF one day, and Gorilla says, well, you stop it, of course. Okie dokie. this match. I barely need to look. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Do I want to run down all of them? I'll generally run down what's going on here. Numbers 1 and 2 are the British Bullfrog and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, accompanied to the ring by Sherry. She didn't even manage the Heartbreak Kid in his first year yet. Remember, Sean. I'll wait till Sean gets out to talk about it. Yeah. And this is bananas. 90 seconds into the 2 minute interval, the $1 Million Man, who was a top guy for 4 or 5 years, gets eliminated by the British Bullfrog. DiBiase hits a couple of suplexes, 2 verticals, and a gut wrench, not in that order, and the Bulldog clotheslines him out, and no one saw it coming. And I think in part DiBiase had to go because he's that long workhorse that would kind of take the steam out of Ric Flair's long bad guy workhorse thing going on that day. So DiBiase just had to go. And it was a surprise. It made Bulldog look good. And it's not going to hurt DiBiase any. So DiBiase was about to be part of a tag team. I don't even know if that was planned yet. But who knows? So anyway. And then, of course, as, all night long, Bobby Heenan, he's trying to excuse himself from the announcer's table. Let me just go to the back and check. You got to stay right here while I'll have you removed. Let me just, oh, that's right. He tried to give a guy $3. That's why I wrote that down. During the Disasters LOD match, he says, hey, do me a favor. Here's $3. Heenan would always be talking to a fake intern off camera to get him to do favors to infuriate Gorilla Monsoon. Hey, buddy, come here. Yeah. Oh, and Gorilla would play along. Oh, that stooge you got with you? Hey, don't talk about so-and-so that way. Yeah, and he would always be trying to find out what's Flair's number, blah, 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 blah. And Gorilla would say, well, obviously they don't think what you think is that important, or they just would have told you. Oh, we must have everything under control. We primed him for number 18. We figured that's the best way. Well, you can't control that. And, oh, it was beautiful. Just a thing of beauty. You could watch these shows while looking at something else. Just put the audio on and entertain yourself. And you know what's going on, too. But amidst all the silliness. Ric Flair comes out at number 3. You see DiBiase cross paths with him just because sometimes shit just worked out that way. And it was just, that stuff was always cool to me. It just makes things look less bland. Flair gets in there and he's taking gorilla slams and backdrops from the Bulldog and doing his thing, and he's getting pounded until number 4, Jerry Sags, comes in, and then Flair's letting Sags hit the Bulldog, but Flair's jumping in, and every time Flair would jump in, Heenan would go, no, let so-and-so do it. Let so-and-so do it. But then Haku comes in, and I think Sags was standing on the apron at one point, which is the hardest part of the ring, and the British Bullfrog drop kicks Sags off, and now Sags is gone. And then Haku runs in, and Haku's beating up Bulldog, and Heenan's happy. And then he says, well, you never know what Haku. I managed him. I couldn't control him. Haku's beating up Flair, chopping away. And Flair's letting every single person in this ring throw him to the buckle and give him a backdrop. Jeez, and the gorilla slams, the 2 big bumps Flair likes to take. He made sure everyone gave them to him. Shawn Michaels comes out number 6. I think Haku gets tossed. And again, so I have no idea when they actually filmed the Marty Jannetty barbershop window thing, which in my opinion is the number 2 heel turn of all time, only behind Hogan's NWO one. But it aired a week before the Rumble. We'll put it that way. So, for all intents and purposes, Michaels had only been a bad guy for a week as far as we're concerned, so we know nothing about it. So he's wearing these white tights with these black patches on him, and again, no music, because no one had music except for the first 2 guys, so people just had to wait, and there was no screen. People just had to gradually figure out who you were, and then cheer or boo, or not do anything, which is the worst. And so the reaction, the sound of the audio is sound of the audio. Duh, all audio is sound. The sound of the audience is so different back then because you weren't waiting for Booker T's "Can You Dig It, Sucker" at the beginning of his thing, or "If You Smell What the Rock Is," or "Woo" at the beginning of Ric Flair's thingy. That wasn't in yet. It was just the old Space Odyssey theme. It wasn't a sudden brah pop. It was more of a gradual roar of everyone at different moments were figuring out who it was. and it made for longer fan reactions too. The thing is just loud. People, this is the only Rumble I can think of where throughout the entire thing, more or less, the people are pretty much making a ton of noise. Even this one's got a couple of lulls, but nothing major. No big lulls. Not like the '91, which was a giant lull. And '90 was pretty happening too. He just had the greatest workers and personalities. But this was one of those ones where you just yeah, people. It's hard with the Rumble, and it wasn't as planned out. People didn't run in and do their 30 seconds of stuff as soon as they enter it necessarily at this time. They kind of went and worked with whoever was going to work with them, and then they got in and out when they had to get in and out. So it was different. It was radically different. Guys just had to work. Sean's in there, and then now we settle down for a bit. Tito Santana, El Matador runs in as well, and we're still beating up on Flair. Even a 1 week in singles wrestler Shawn Michaels going head to head with Flair is the strangest thing to watch right now, considering how it ended and all that. And Tito's in there. I said the Barbarian is in there. Texas Tomato's in there. The Repo Man comes in there. Greg the Hammer comes in there. And Nikolai Volkov comes in there. The Mountie comes in his sleep, according to Roddy Piper. Okay, well, he said it, not me. And everyone's still in the ring, pretty much. Only Ted Saggs and Haku are gone. Um, and Flair's taking abuse from guys he shouldn't be taking abuse from, but he's in there. Texas Tomato, of course, interesting to see. Two NWA champions who've traded the NWA championship in there under radically different circumstances. The Texas Tomato and their Nature Warrior Flair. The Brain gets very upset at around number 10 or 11, Repo Man or Greg Valentine. I forget why. Yeah, he just starts screaming, "You're not going to make me upset. I'm not going to get upset. You're losing your mind. I'm not upset." Heenan is just having palpitations. He's like, "I'm sweaty. I'm soaking wet, Monsoon." Oh man, just a thing of beauty. It's a thing of beauty. The ring keeps piling up. Nikolai Volkov gets in there, and so does the Big Boss Man and Hercules. Let me stop there. So that brings us up to 14 guys. I'm going to stop there for a minute because this is where it gets really full, and they start a very quick dumping. Nikolai wasn't in there until the next guy. I forget who tossed Nikolai. I think the Repo Man. Big Boss Man gets in there. He tosses Repo Man. I'm pretty sure. I think someone took the hammer out too. I forget who took out the hammer. I don't know the answer to who took the hammer out, but I don't think it's that important. And Hercules runs in there. Hercules doesn't last long. Hercules tosses Barbarian. Bossman tosses Herc. Two in a row. Flair tosses Bulldog and Tomato right after him, and vice versa. And then Bossman misses a big dive and kind of hits his belly on the top rope, and then lands with his back on the ring apron, is the hardest part of the ring, and catches his throat on the bottom rope, which looks really painful. The Flair is empty in the ring, and we're halfway through. Number 15 is about to enter anyway. We're almost half. And Heenan already is, he won! That's it, we're done, right? This is the end. No, it is not the end. We're only halfway through. And with Flair all by himself, and everybody wondering what the hell is going to happen, out comes Roddy Piper, who Flair has been pissing off for several months on WWF TV. Really, just masterfully done. Masterfully done. The loss of Patterson was felt definitely in the next few rumbles for for whatever. Piper wails away, and we start all over again with every new star except Flair still in there. And Piper, of course, gives Flair every bump Flair can take. Jake the Snake Robert comes in, and this is one of the parts that people love when Piper is saving Flair from Jake. Heenan says, "I'm sorry, Roddy. I'm sorry, Piper. It's a kilt. It's not a skirt. It's a kilt. I'm sorry." And then Piper kicks Flair. "You low down dirty. It's a skirt. It's not a kilt. It's a skirt. It was a skirt the whole time." And to wear a skirt or to be a female is bad. Again, it's 92. So that makes him less of a man if he chose to do that. But okay, never mind. Never mind, Bob. We get it. Hacksaw Jim Duggan runs out, and now it's even. It's Hacksaw and Piper versus Jake and Flair, more or less. And Jake is brilliant, and Gorilla made a note of it. At every entrance, Jake would turn his head, and Gorilla would make a note. You see how every time there's an entrance, Jake turns his head? He's worried about Randy Savage. Everybody remembered their main goal to win a title, but all their little subplots, not subplots, they had their big angles going on at the same time. Really a thing of beauty. When Hacksaw enters, that's the first time I heard one of the inside wrestling lingo, which used to be inside. Heenan just says it 3 times. He goes, "We were jobbed. We got jobbed, Monsoon. We got jobbed." Like, jeez. I don't think anyone cared at the time. IRS enters, and of course Heenan says, "I paid a lot in taxes last year." "Oh, you did not." He says, "No, you're kidding me. Almost $200. Almost $200. Are you kidding me?" Ah. The Undertaker and Jimmy Snuka, or Jimmy Snuka and The Undertaker arrive next. Now, this is funny. Because of the circumstances by which the title was vacated, the last Tuesday in Texas pay-per-view, don't get me started, as the original screw job of the Survivor Series was the Tuesday in Texas fiasco. Jack Tunney said because of Taker and Hogan, no one called him Taker again. The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan were involved in that weird vacating situation. He said they're allowed to choose from numbers 20 through 30 in the Royal Rumble, which they have earned the right to do because they were the last 2 champions during this whole ordeal. Here's the funny thing to me: 20 through 30 is the last 11 spots. Wouldn't it be better to have just an even number and let them choose 21 through 30? No, they chose to. And the Undertaker got number 20, which is hilarious. There's 10 people after him. So how did he? But they tried to sell it as the last third, but it's not the last third. It's the last third plus 1, whatever the math is. The Taker got screwed. The response, the babyface response, and it's New York, whatever. Taker right away. This is at least the first time on tape I can remember. Like, oh, watching this back, this blew my mind because I pay extra close attention to old Taker stuff now, and man, he was a babyface coming to that ring. No goddamn doubt. There were signs for him. People were cheering. They loved Paul Bear and the faces, and people were just having a great time. This, you knew already. I know, like a week later, they aired the Saturday Night's Main Event with Taker and Flair teaming just to really set up the Sid Hogan thing. That might have even been filmed before the Rumble. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. But even still, it doesn't surprise me that the very next important airing of The Undertaker would be that same Saturday Night's Main Event where at the end, Savage kind of finishes his thing with Jake, and Taker grabs that chair away from Jake, and it just made all the sense in the world because Jake still had a ton of like heel heat, from his Elizabeth stuff and all that. So yeah, looking back now, I'm like, oh, I get it because there was no way, minus that Flair tag match that Taker had to do. You turn him, yeah, don't even wait anymore. It was ridiculous. Right after the Undertaker enters Randy Savage was crazy. Savage can't find Jake right away. I think Taker clobbers him. Savage does get his hand on Jake, and this was great because when Savage would get his hand on the guy who tries to maim him and like slaps his wife and all that shit, Savage doesn't hit his signature moves on him all the time. He claws at the guy's face. He does his punches and he claws at the eyes and the nose and the mouth. He tries to rip the man's face apart, which made all the sense in the world, not just for Savage to do because it's how Savage wrestled, but because of the situation. So Savage gives a knee lift to Jake's back, I guess, and he puts a knee to Jake's back. Jake goes over the top, and Savage jumps over the top rope and eliminates himself. And this is when the announcers had to quickly cover and say, "Hey, we just we just heard a ruling." And Heenan just jumps right in. He goes, "Yeah, you can't throw yourself out. I think that's a rule. I think that's one of the new rules. You can't throw yourself out." And Gorilla says, yeah, well, The Undertaker just threw Randy Savage back in, and Taker went under the ropes, threw Savage back in. And Gorilla said, "Yep, I'm hearing now you have to be propelled by your own volition." Of course, he has to make it fancy. Which is not true. You can, in other Rumbles, guys eliminate themselves all the time. But in this case, they had to be like, shit, he's part of the finish, and he just got here. He's Randy Savage. People want to see him. He needs to be around for a bit. And Savage disappears and shrinks for the rest of this Rumble. He was much smaller at this time, and he just wasn't standing out, and there was a lot going on. The thing fills up quickly, too. Um, and he gets dumped out unceremoniously later on. Why would there be a ceremony? I hate when they say that. The Berserker and Virgil and Colonel Mustafa and Rick Martel all jump in. Very few eliminations. I think Taker took Jimmy Snuka out with one shot when he got in there. Very few eliminations. I think that's it. So it's just piling up all over again. There's not a lot happening. They're pretty much waiting for Hulk. And Hulk shows up at 26. Hulk Hogan tries to rip his shirt off, and Hulk Hogan's shirt plays this ridiculous. Hulk Hogan's shirt refused to be eliminated. It fell off of Hogan. It was being held by some other guys to choke Hogan. It ended up on IRS's shoulder, caught in his suspenders for a little bit. Hogan's shirt would not job for anybody. Even his shirt was like, that don't work for me, brother. I'm a shirt. Who did Hogan talk? Hogan clotheslines out the Undertaker first, of course, and yeah, they cheered. It's Hulk, and it's a big monster bad guy, but they didn't sound that happy to me. I think Hogan took Berserker out as well. Uh, they made a point to tell you how many there were more ex-WWF champions in this Rumble than any other in the past, which was Hogan, Taker, Randy, Slaughter, and Colonel Mustafa, who was the Iron Sheik at the time. That's only 5. Nowadays, half the roster has been champion, or half a Rumble roster would probably have been champion of one of the two shows. Skinner arrives. He does not win. Sid is 29 and the Warlord is 30. How's that for beefy? So they're all in there. And when the Warlord entered, this is one of the first times I heard someone say, "This is one of these men is definitely going to be the winner." I think Hogan takes Warlord out early again, which he did in '89 famously. Maybe it was Sid, I forget. I thought it was Hogan. Yeah. Well, we get to the final. A lot of crap happens. Okay. Hacksaw and Virgil take each other out. Piper and Model get chucked out by Sid. Slaughter gets chucked out by Sid with that awesome bump Slaughter does where he hits his chest on the buckle and slaps his hand, face, whatever against the ring post. It just looked great. Right into the hard cam, too, which didn't care about that much those days, but it just looked awesome. Uh, I forget who threw out Skinner. I wasn't really following. I think Piper took IRS out. So we're left with Savage, Sid, Hogan, and Flair. And Sid, again, with no ceremony. Why would you have a ceremony? He just kind of picks up Savage and gingerly dumps him up on a ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. And Savage just kind of falls out. He just crumples up. This skinny guy in gold and purple tights just kind of crumples up. It's so sad. But we get to the finale. We know what happens. Hogan throws Flair into the corner. Flair, unfortunately, fails to do his upside down bump, which he was trying to do, so he can go onto the ring apron, is the hardest part of the ring. But anyway, Hogan just kind of punches him, and Flair falls over the top rope. And as Flair's clinging on, Hogan's stomping away, and Sid comes up from behind Hogan, dumps him, and Hogan just gingerly lands on his feet. Don't say gingerly, that's my word. You can't use it if you're. Okay, I don't care. And Hogan, then this baffled me at 12 years old. It baffles me today why they thought Hulk Hogan was the babyface here. The Sid did nothing against the rules. He saw an opportunity to eliminate Hulk Hogan, he took it. And Gorilla tried to be like, hey, he snuck up from behind. And of course, Bobby Heenan, rightfully, yeah, that's what everyone does. Everyone's done that to everyone this entire match. And for the last 4 years, we've been doing this shit. But Hogan was mad and he grabs Sid's arm and he pulls on him. And he tries to pull him and illegally eliminate him. And Flair sneaks up from behind, trips up Sid. Sid's leg actually gets caught under Flair's crotch for a second, but it made it look real and less contrived. And Sid tumbles out, and Flair falls on the mat and wins the whole damn thing. And it's, in my opinion, just one of the greatest Ric Flair career moments of all. And they end the in-ring stuff with a shoving match between Sid and Hogan. And there's half boos, there's half cheers. Later on that Saturday night's main event they air a week or two later. Yeah, now it sounds like all cheers for Hogan. They railroaded that thing. But it wasn't true because people knew. Even the Hulk supporters were like, when they used to care about this stuff, oh crap, he broke the rules though, Hogan. We love you, Hulk, but Sid's totally in the right here. But anyway, then we actually closed the show. Not with what's happening in the ring, but this was rare too. Remember this time, and this is why it stands out for me so much. At the time, they didn't end pay-per-views with heels winning, ever. Definitely not a Mania, but not even a Rumble. The idea that a heel could win the Royal Rumble, to me, was baffling. Because Hogan was 90 and 91, Big John Studd won that weird 89 one, Hacksaw won the 88 one. Um, a heel couldn't possibly win the Royal Rumble. How is that even humanly possible? Let alone celebrate at the end of a pay-per-view. How does a show end like that? A pay-per-view can't end like that. Yes, it can. This is a big deal. So they end with the famous promo with Okerlund talking to Flair, Perfect Brain. And sadly, Ric Flair's the only, and Jack Tunney, and Ric Flair's the only one alive still on the screen. This, of course, this promo was famous for Gene Okerlund about Flair was talking, yelling to someone. Actually, Okerlund was talking. He interrupted himself and goes, "Well, Ric Flair, now that you're," and he turns off camera and says, "Put that cigarette out." Somebody was lighting a cigarette, and then he even nudges and it distracts everyone. But this is the famous "with a tear in my eye" promo. And Perfect and Heenan are great. Perfect does that. We'd hate to say we told you so, but we told you so. And they are laughing. They are celebrating. And Ric Flair is yelling. And the Pipers and the Sids and yada, yada, yada. And he didn't use this line much, but I don't remember. The tear in my eye line is great. And this makes you the top of the champion in the wrestling world. And yada, yada, yada. But I like the line where he ends it with, and he goes, "And y'all pay homage to the man," and he gives a big woo. And this is when the woos weren't as plentiful. You'd hear a good one at the end, maybe one in the beginning, and Heenan and Perfect would do one, but it wasn't the parade of woos that it would turn into in later years. It meant something. You made that woo mean something, damn it. That's when woos used to mean something. And they end the show with that goofy clip thing. They play a cheesy song with some keyboards and synthesizers and show still pictures of the entire event. And they were never good pictures. They didn't have time to pick good ones. Um, so that was the '92 Rumble. The Undertaker, yes. So the Undertaker, uh, you could hear it if you go and watch this. People cared, and he looked the coolest, the big duster jacket and the hat and everything else. And like I wanted him to see more when he took Snook out, and he in his Flair frenzy even takes time out to say one shot, Monsoon. He took out the legendary Jimmy Snook. That's good stuff. Because Heenan and Gorilla didn't get so distracted that they weren't putting over what they were supposed to. But Heenan does finally. I think he takes off and drops the headset and runs away. His second Flair wins because he just can't take it anymore. But the tension in Heenan's voice and his performance that night made this. I don't know how it made it for the live audience, but for the viewer, the pay-per-view viewer, and even reviewing it, Heenan and Gorilla are what makes this Rumble match specifically so rewatchable, and why it's probably the most rewatched Rumble match and everyone's favorite Rumble match. And I still say '90 doesn't get the love it should because it's really just as good, but um, the history is not the history of this being the first time the title was vacated. I don't think they've done that since. I think they had Roman defend it in 2016 or something goofy like that, but they never had it vacated again. And I hope they don't do it just to do it, because that would be stupid. Let it be, or if it comes up organically, then do it. But never do it just to do it, because so they can go, remember '92. Like, no, don't do that. Um, what an interesting show. One singles match all these days. 43 different wrestlers, which is strange because I commented that Mania 8 would be the first under like 2 hour and 40 minute WrestleMania we'd seen in forever. Uh, because I thought the roster was so thin. I mean, granted, a Royal Rumble there's a lot of people in a Rumble who don't need a WrestleMania match, and yet a lot of them were in that 8-man tag and everything else too. So uh, stuff was just different. Stuff was different. And of course, you got the inclusion of Bret Hart in Mania 8 and all that as well. And the return of Shango in a war, and the return of the Warrior and Shango debuting. Oh well. So Interesting times. Unfortunately, I don't think, at least pay-per-view wise, 92 doesn't really get better after the Rumble. I don't think any pay-per-view in 92 really matches the Rumble. Mania 8 comes close. It's WrestleMania. But like I said, I feel WrestleMania is really a great wrestling show and not necessarily the greatest WrestleMania. But they were oddities, and I still think they made all the best decisions they possibly could. And I am not mad they didn't do the Hogan Flair thing in WrestleMania 8. I know a lot of people really get mad about that, but I do have to agree with some of my least favorite wrestling personalities, unfortunately, when they go, yeah, but what's the finish? They're right. But the 92 Rumble, definitely a rewatchable, fun Rumble. Um, During the lulls or when it's the two big periods where things are just piling up and no one's going out. Um, Gorilla and Bobby get you through it. I don't know if Gorilla and Bobby do the 93 Rumble. I'm sure they didn't do. I think it was Vincent Piper, or was it Gorilla and Piper? Maybe Gorilla and Piper did 91, and Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura did 90, of course. So I don't really know. Things would change because for so much of the mid 90s and on it was actually Vince and Lawler. People always remember JR and Lawler, but Vince and Lawler had a long run of doing so many of those things. So we watched the 92 Royal Rumble. There's not much for me to say. It's a great show. I'm not too can't really make fun of too much going on. Tomorrow's Fastlane. Yay or something. I don't know what's. I don't even know what I'm going to be watching. What am I going to be watching? Well, we'll find out and we'll talk about it on the hardest part of the ring.